Okay, so having been one of these targeted individuals with the psychoelectronic weapons for so many years, uh, of course, we've been trying to find out about it um, the whole time. And because it's all classified, we can never find anything. It's all secret. But we get snippets. So here's a couple that I found. There is such a thing as the United States Psychotronic Association. Now, this is sort of borderland science. Of course, it's well developed in the classified sphere, but outside, it is borderland. I don't think neuroscience believes that it's real. Okay, if you talk to a neuroscientist, they just dismiss the entire thing. But here on the USPA website, it says our basic premise is that ESP is a natural occurrence. We seek to understand how it occurs and to use that understanding for the benefit of mankind. USPA is not an experiential group. Our orientation is towards the technical and scientific aspects of psychotronics and its practical applications, merging the esoteric, spiritual, and scientific worlds. Quantum mechanics has provided a scientific basis which allows the existence of psychic phenomena and unconventional energy effects. Members are on the leading edge of the new paradigms in science, theory, and instrumentation. This is the physics of 2100. The United States Psychotronics Association covers a broad spectrum of interests. The association defines psychotronics as the science of mind, body, environment relationships, an interdisciplinary science concerned with the interactions of matter, energy, and consciousness. Okay, now here's a diagram of the brain as a binary scalar interferometer. This is from a talk by Thomas Bearden. Took me a long time to find that diagram because all of this, it is denied by neuroscience, for one. They say all this stuff about remote brain contact is phony. So the first thing they do when you talk to them is they want to send you to a psychiatrist, who, in my opinion, is completely ignorant. All they do is take your money and pose as some kind of medical authority. All right, now here from a famous paper by a great scientist named Vannevar Bush. He wrote this back right after the end of World War II. It's a famous paper called As We May Think. And in this paper, he visualized in advance the configuration for the personal computer, for the search engine, for Wikipedia, and this guy was just incredibly forward-looking. And he also foresaw the possibility of the psychotronics. So I want to read you a couple of paragraphs here from Vannevar Bush way back in the 40s. All our steps in creating or absorbing material of the record proceed through one of the senses. The tactile when we touch the keys, the oral when we speak or listen, the visual when we read. Is it not possible that someday the path may be established more directly? So what he's talking about there is, couldn't you just directly access the brain? I will continue. We know that when the eye sees, all the consequent information is transmitted to the brain by means of electrical vibrations in the channel of the optic nerve. This is an exact analogy with the electrical vibrations which occur in the cable of a television set. They convey the picture from the photocells which see it to the radio transmitter from which it is broadcast. We know further that if we can approach that cable with the proper instruments, we do not need to touch it. We can pick up those vibrations by electrical induction and thus discover and reproduce the same scene which is being transmitted, just as a telephone wire may be tapped for its message. Okay, so there he's talking about remotely intercepting information that is coming to and from the brain. He goes on to say, the impulses which flow in the arm nerves of a typist convey to her fingers the translated information which reaches her eye or ear in order that the fingers may be caused to strike the proper keys. Might not these currents be intercepted, either in the original form in which information is conveyed to the brain, or in the marvelously metamorphosed form in which they then proceed to the hand? So he's talking about remotely tapping neural information. Now, another thing about Vannevar Bush is he was a member of the Majestic 12 committee when it was first formulated. And if anybody had access to alien technology back in the 40s, it would have been him. And I think it is possible that some of his conjecture and successful prediction came from knowledge he may have had of secret alien technology that was shown to him. He may have been tasked with analyzing some of it. Now, he didn't go on to discover that it could be the end of all scarcity and the money system because, his friend on the Majestic 12 committee was murdered by the CIA and replaced by a CIA man. So he was in the circle with the military elite, and he couldn't do anything too radical. Now, in some news articles, I look for other mind control victims. I think I have a couple here. New York Times, December 14th, 2014. An American citizen who said he illegally entered North Korea held a news conference in the capital, Pyongyang, on Sunday, during which he offered a lengthy criticism of the policies of the United States and human rights conditions there, and said that he would seek asylum in Venezuela. The man identified himself as Arturo Martinez and said he had entered North Korea by crossing the Yalu River from China. Mr. Martinez's mother told CNN that her son was placed in a psychiatric hospital. She said her son had bipolar disorder. During the Pyongyang news conference, Mr. Martinez said he apologized for entering North Korea in such a foolish way, but he said he took a risky journey to North Korea so he could pass along some very valuable and disturbing information. He warned of extremely dangerous and subversive technologies related to UFOs. Now, my guess here is that he is being targeted with the mind control weapons, and he's talking about the telepathic technology that the Pentagon has. Now, there are some things going on here. We know the New York Times is essentially an arm of the American intelligence community. So everything they say about this episode is coming to you through a filter. It's all been censored and prearranged. The other thing is, we don't know who is wielding the technology. Perhaps Mr. Martinez is being targeted by another country, and they drove him to go to North Korea and make these testimonies. So there's all kinds of sneaky spy stuff going on, and you have to try to figure it out kind of at a distance, at a remove, and figure out which interest parties are involved. Now here's another one. New York Times, September 25th, 2013. Gunman said electronic brain attacks drove him to violence. Now, to get the New York Times to admit or print anything about electronic brain attacks is almost impossible. So the fact that they printed this is amazing. Okay, Washington. The man who killed 12 people at the Washington Navy Yard 10 days ago left behind electronic documents saying that the government had been attacking his brain using extremely low frequency, that's ELF, electromagnetic waves created by the Navy. And that was the reason he needed to lash out. Now, they usually don't even go so far as to mention testimonies like that. So why is the New York Times printing anything about electronic mind control? Well, maybe it's because it is in fact some kind of a trans-dimensional technology, and they want you to think that it's ELF waves. Remember, they work for the spies. The New York Times is an arm of the intelligence community. Okay, the article goes on. A month before the shootings, Mr. Alexis told the police he had been hearing voices sent by a microwave machine. Officials were aware of his unstable condition and brought him home. The Navy has used low-frequency electromagnetic waves for submarine communications, but some conspiracy theorists say the government has weaponized the frequencies to monitor and manipulate unsuspecting citizens. So it's amazing that any of this language entered print at the New York Times. I've seen another article about a man in San Diego. I don't have a copy of it here. This is back in the 90s, who said that he was attacked with what he called audible weaponry. Now, they do have remote sound projection where they can make a source of sound appear, for instance, in your house, like a klaxon or a siren or any sound, and it can appear out of midair in the middle of your house, floating around from room to room. And if you heard that happening in your house, wouldn't it drive you bananas? And this particular man, he was driven to go outside and start shooting at his neighbors, and he was put in jail for 6 years. That sounds to me like a directed energy weapon and some kind of an experimental assault upon him by either corporate espionage or government espionage, just for testing purposes, or who knows what the spies are up to doing. It's all cloaked in secrecy.